Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show, and my special guest in studio with me is LeeRoy Parcel, and he's from Cascade Title. You can contact him at 360-425-2950 and on the web at cascade-title.com. Well, first of all, welcome to the Business Forum Show, LeeRoy.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for being with us. And let's start off talking a little bit about what got you started in title work, because you've been doing this for a long time.
Quite a while. I started in 1979, straight out of high school. I had a friend whose mother worked for the title company, and they asked if I was interested in a position that they had opened, and I said yes, and started at the very bottom and worked my way up through the years of delivering recordings and got into title examinations and all the way to now presently manager.
Very nice. So I wanted to go back to this a little bit because I mentioned to you before we got started here in the broadcast that my wife was into music, and you said, well, hey, you've got a music connection to the title business, so you like to play drums and stuff like that. So how did that lead you to the title company?
Well, I was in a drum corps during the 70s. A friend of mine that was also in drum corps, her mother worked for the title company, and we had been on tour, and we'd gotten back, and after 3 months on the road, and they were looking for somebody, and since they knew that I was just back and I just graduated, I was available. They offered me a job.
Well, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about the title business, because this is a role that for most home buyers is pretty much invisible until really when they come around to closing the house. That's when they get a chance to meet the title officers. So explain a little bit about your role for our business audience out there that might not be real familiar with what a title officer in a title company does.
A title officer is the person who is responsible for doing the research on real estate property involved either in a purchase or financing. They are searching public records that are maintained by county's auditor's office, the treasurer office, assessors, and superior court clerk, and we're searching for information that are going to affect the real estate property or the individuals themselves. Mm-hmm. We have copies of all the records that have been recorded in the county in our office, mm-hmm. and so we don't have to physically go to the county. We can research all that stuff in our office.
What are some of the common things that show up, because you're researching all the various issues that could potentially impact the title of the home, and what are some of the common issues that come up?
A common issue would be ownership issues, who actually owns a property, issues of any liens, judgments, mortgages that might be against a property, easements, restrictions as far as the usage of the property. We're looking for access, make sure the property has legal access. Anything that may affect a property in some way in a negative manner that a party may be concerned about for their protection of their use.
We commonly see, like even in the comic strip, some of these arguments over somebody saying, your fence is on my property. You run into that kind of stuff a lot?
Yes. Fence lines, property lines, there's always a question about that'll come up about where they may be located. Someone will build a fence not knowing exactly where the line is at, and then sometime down in the future it's discovered that they built their fence a couple of feet over a property line, or it's not exactly where they thought it would be, and it becomes an issue sometimes with the parties on both sides of the fence.
Mm-hmm. On both sides of the fence. Yes. One of the questions I had for you, because I thought this was really interesting when you mentioned earlier about people are commonly recycled in the industry. Like, when I think about somebody, getting out of high school like you did and jumping right into this business, it's probably not all that common that people go to college and think of the title business as a career choice per se. Talk a little bit about some of the people being recycled in the industry, and how do people actually come around to saying, hey, working for a title company is my career choice? kind of a tough one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. As far as for recycling people, usually most of the people in our local area have been in the title, that are involved in title, have been title officers for 15, 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been in the industry for a long time. Somebody coming in new may just be someone who we've hired to be delivery person, to do our documents recording, and as they've stayed with the company, they show more interest in the different things that we do
Mm-hmm.
in the title industry, and they show an aptitude towards that. So we start training them in that direction.
At some point, you say, "Hey, how about becoming a loan officer and getting involved in the other side of the business?"
Yeah.
Well, interesting. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was really during the downturn in the housing industry, and you've pointed out here 2007, 2008, 2009 was a really tough area for a lot of people. Some things have changed as a result of that, and you talked about how loan officers today are getting title companies involved much earlier in the process. Why is that, do you think?
For the most part, it's so they can have the information available to them prior to, a lot earlier in the process. The process, there's so many requirements now for documentation that having a transaction open and close within just a couple of days is really difficult. There's a lot of things that lenders have to do, real estate agents, and the title side that involve the title people that have to be addressed. And so having the information up front, whether it's a couple of weeks or even a month, is what really needed at this point.
We're just about out of time here, but what do you see coming as far as the housing industry? Do things look good out there on the horizon?
I think people are optimistic that sales are up, interest rates are down, and the market looks pretty good for this coming year, and hopefully we'll start seeing that real soon.
Perfect. Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. My special guest is LeeRoy Parcel from Cascade Title. You can contact him at 360-425-2950. Again, that contact number, 360-425-2950. And you can find him on the web at cascade-title.com. Again, that's cascade-title.com. Thanks for joining us here on the show today, LeeRoy.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for listening.